Nammo Aditapha, good morning. Thank you for joining me for this Tuesday's daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The second wonderful precept. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I vow to cultivate loving kindness and learn ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I will practice generosity by sharing my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in real need. I'm determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. I will respect the property of others, but I will prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other species on earth. We're continuing to read Ajahn Sucitto's Kamma and the End of Kamma. We'll begin the section on establishing the Four Noble Truths today. The first noble truth is of dis-ease, unsatisfactoriness, suffering, and stress, dukkha. At first glance, this dis-ease is inescapable. Birth is dukkha, aging is dukkha, death is dukkha, being connected to the disagreeable, being separated from the agreeable, not achieving one's wishes is dukkha. In brief, the five aggregates affected by clinging are dukkha. The only questionable aspect of this is, what's all this about five aggregates, khandha? These are material form, such as one's body, feeling tones, felt meanings, patterns and programs, sankhara, and consciousness. Mixes of these constitute our ordinary experience, and to fully understand dukkha means understanding these so that we can penetrate and let go of clinging, penetrating and letting go of clinging. So, how do we work on that? Well, some things are stuck with no choice. The body is bound to experience pain and death. One aspect of feeling is bound to be painful. Felt meanings are conditioned. Functional programs like breathing and being sentient are choiceless, and the experience of being conscious means that we receive a huge amount of random sense input that occupies the mind, not always to our benefit. What we need to attend to, therefore, are what we can have some choice over, the programs of our mind and the intentions that they carry. There a choice can be made. With a deliberate intention, we can step back from stuck and harmful intentions. We can let go of aversion and forgive our enemies. We can pull out of habits, compulsions, and addictions, and that gives rise to some well-being and a sense that release is possible. This degree of letting go changes contact impressions and broadens attention, which also affect our programs. That is, when we change the intention from getting things done on time to one of patience, attention broadens, and the mind can then open into broader reflections on what is skillful right now. Also, if we shift attention from irritating topics to non-irritating ones, again we come into contact with more equanimous and open states with resultant balanced behavior. It's above all the case that when we shift our view from me and my way and why is life so unfair to one of where is there stress, and where does it stop? Suffering and stress get curtailed, some long-term programs get switched off, and personal development inches along. Consequently, to understand the First Noble Truth encourages us to work on sankhara, To really get behind this matter of patterns and programs, it's the most immediate way we have of getting out of stress. For example, if your daughter-in-law is always bullying your son, when you look at your own sense of grievance over that, your own instinct may be to jump into the fray and sort her or him out. Alternatively, you might just shrug the matter off as purely their concern. But you know that although this sounds true, actually you are affected. You are part of that scenario. So what can you do without denying the dis-ease, but also without getting righteous and generating more stress for everyone? Well, you might work on how your own patterns are designating her as a witch and see if you can do something about that. Maybe you could broaden your attention. Start to see her good side, get to be on good terms with her, and try to understand why she does what she does. When you contemplate how your own patterning works, you might consider that a lot of what she's doing comes from an unconscious reflex, and you might acknowledge that you tend to favor your son and perhaps don't see his exasperating aspects. But how does he trigger her program? Whatever the results of trying to deeply understand, rather than react, to the dukkha of the situation, at least you've freed up your own sense of frustration and impotence. You've developed the intention to understand, made your attention broader and less reactive, and that feels a lot better than just freezing people into fixed roles and positions. As we work on our patterns and programs, we grow to understand how they bind the mind into reflexes of grabbing and rejecting, judging and speculating, worrying and hungering. This takes us into the second noble truth, that dukkha has an origin in the reflex of craving and aversion. That is, there is the craving that is bound up with seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling, and the partiality of that produces irritation and aversion when we don't get what we want. And there is also the craving for becoming and non-becoming. The first thing to do, then, is to get your mind clear enough and firm enough to check those reflexes because of their instinctive power to sidetrack awakening with self-views. This takes motivation, chanda, rather than craving, the responsibility to substitute clear intentions for the reflex ones. How much of intention is based upon trying to not be whom you assume you are, or trying to use a system to improve the reflection in that distorting mirror? It's better then to recognize unskillful desires and self-centeredness as patterns, rather than deny them, and hence draw a veil over the process of clinging. Clinging to self-imagery is to be abandoned. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu. 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 Thank you for joining me this morning.